Well, good morning, Summit Church. Why don't you go ahead and stand to your feet? We're so happy that you're here. Let's worship together.
Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our
faithful and I've been reckless to everything. I've held everything together and watched it shatter. And I've stood tall and I've crumbled in the same breath. I've wrestled and I have trembled towards surrender. Chased my heart adrift and drifted home again. Under blessing till I've been desperate to find redemption. And every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. Yeah. And I was found before I was lost, and I was yours before I was none. And grace to spare for all my mistakes, and that bar just tracks me.
I don't deserve this kind of love, but somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up to be somebody you still want, but somehow you love me as you find me.
Glory needs my praises, but if this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. You're faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful. But think you don't need a single thing, still you want my heart. Before I was lost, and I was yours before I was none. You wear the scars, all my mistakes, that bar just tracks me.
I don't deserve this kind of love, but somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up to be somebody you still want, but somehow you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. You love me as you find me.
I'm so glad I knew
fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom coming and to reconcile the lost, to redeem the whole creation. You did not despise the cross, for even in your suffering, you saw to the other side, knowing this was our salvation. Jesus, for our sake, you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. The morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, and the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of all shall not yield, shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of
If you guys will pray with me, Jesus, we just come together and stand in front of you right now as just a people who worship you. Because you are the God that was and is to come. And yet you've chosen to walk alongside of us and to be present with us in every aspect of our lives. And so, God, there's no other response but just to worship you. And that is what we're doing this morning. And God, you just know that there's worries in our minds and just things that we have to take care of in our lives. But in this moment, we set those aside just to focus on who you are. We just thank you that you're our God, that we can call you our God and who we look to and who we can trust. We just thank you from the beginning of time. Your words put creation into motion that we stand in awe of. And yet it put eternity into our hearts that draws us to you. And so we want to be your people that are known by your name. And we thank you and we love you for who you are. Amen. You guys can have a seat. So we're entering this time of the year where we get to typically look back over the last year, and you make a list of all the things that you're thankful for. No doubt in just a few weeks you're going to be around a table telling each other what you're thankful for this year, or like maybe it was a good year for you, maybe it was a so-so year, or the best year yet. But it's good just to look back, because no matter what kind of year it was for you, God was working in it. He was doing some things in your life. And so we love to do that as a church, because we know that He was doing a lot of things here at the summit. And what He was doing was through you. It was because of the way you give financially. It's because of the way you give your time, the way that you act out your gifts that God has given you. And so we like to put all of that together. And so as you came in, you got a card that looks like this, and it's called The Best of the Summit. And there's a lot of things on there, because that's how amazing, all the amazing things God is doing because of you. But one of the things we want to look at today is this number right here with the water underneath it. That's how many people got baptized here at the summit this year, 138. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, that's how many people said, like, I want to be a follower of Jesus. And some of that was because of the way you influence them, because of the way you represent Jesus to them and out in our community. They were like, that's something I want to be a part of and I want to learn more of. And so thank you for being the influences that you are, but also thank you for what you do here to make that possible for people to take their next step. And we want to see that number continue to increase, because what we are about here is just making the Jesus known out in our community, right here in our walls, but far beyond that. We know we have people sitting in prison right now that are listening to the truth of Jesus and are making steps in their own faith. And it's because of all what you guys do here to make that possible. And so we want to see that number go up. So maybe that's you. You are just stepping into that season of like, I do want to be a follower of Jesus. And we want to celebrate that with you. We want your number to be on this card next year. And so you can do that by scanning the QR code that's in the seat back pocket in front of you. That is like your one-stop shop when you're here with us in the auditorium. Or we have nice, kind, friendly humans that would love to talk to you about it too. They're in the gallery. You can find them as you leave after every service. And if you're watching online, you can always just hit that Get Connected tab, and we will make sure that we help you take your next step in following Jesus. And some of that may be like you're just not quite ready for that yet, and that's okay. You can be here, belong here before you believe. We love that about you, that you're here with us and you're curious. And so we've got something for you too. It's called Starting Point. And that is where you get a chance to like ask questions about faith. Maybe it's words you've heard, grace and mercy, but you really don't know what that means. Sin, what does that even mean? And so we have a class designed just for you where you can toss around all those questions, and it looks something like this.
Let's be honest. Conversations about faith are usually off limits. It's gotten to the point where the church can be the last place you would think to have a conversation about God. Well, we want to change that. Starting Point is a place where no questions or discussions are off limits. It's not about a teacher giving you information. It's about a conversation. It's about being with other people, like you. And we really mean that. You're free to ask any question you want. This is your opportunity to explore faith freely. It's not another place where people will talk at you. We want to talk with you. So are you curious about God, Jesus, the Bible, or Christianity? Or did you recently begin a relationship with Jesus? Or have you returned to church after some time away? Starting Point is for you. Every Starting Point group is guided by qualified leaders, but your voice matters to the group. Your thoughts add value. You may even ask the question that someone else is afraid to ask. Starting Point, where your questions about God turn into a conversation about faith.
All right, and that is going to be happening starting next week, and it's right here on a Sunday morning, so you don't have to add anything else onto your schedule because you're already here. You can attend a service and attend Starting Point as well, and just scan that QR code or see someone in the gallery to get registered for that. We would love to have you take part in that. So how many of you ever thought, like, do my words really matter? Or did that make a difference in what I said? Or nobody's ever even listening to me anyway. So we are starting a brand new series called The Power of Words, where we're going to deep dive into all of that, learning what your words mean and the power of your words. And so we're so glad that you're here to discover all that. We have got a lot to learn, and we get to do it together. And so enjoy.
Words have started wars, broken up homes, and divided friends, but have also healed hearts, given hope, and brought much joy. Little Johnny here feels pretty good after receiving words of affirmation from his teacher. Careful now, Johnny. Make sure you're aware of the words you use towards others, too.
Yeah.
What you say and how you say it matters. Even the words we say to ourselves can impact our world. The tongue is a very small part of the body, but has a big influence on our lives and all those around us. God has much to say to us about the power of words.
In 1993, there was a study that was done on how many words people speak in a given day. And I'm sure this has been studied before. Somebody had probably thought of this way before 1993. But this was the first study of its kind that got my attention, and it's interesting what they found. In 1993, this study said that women speak about 20,000 words a day. Men speak about 7,000 words a day. And you just kind of let that sink in a little bit. I didn't make this up. I mean, I'm just reporting what it said. But later, there were some other studies done because that one kicked up a lot of stuff, as you can imagine. And so other people decided to study this, and you get different reports. Another report I read that was done a few years later was women speak more like 16,000 words a day, and men speak somewhere 14 to 15,000 words a day. Okay, so there's some discrepancy there. Most studies will say that women speak a little bit more than men do as far as words, but here's the takeaway, all right? We speak a lot of words. We speak a lot of words during a given day. And both men and both women can be on the more quiet side, depending on personality, or they can be quite chatty. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I find it interesting, chatty people. They always find me on a plane, and I don't do a lot of flying, but never fails. I get sit beside somebody that just they have a lot to say, and the fact that they don't know me means nothing to them. And so they go right past all the signals, the headphones, the hat, the blanket I'm holding up between the two of us, and they'll just go right at it. And I've gotten to a point now before I get on the plane, I start looking in the line. And they're going through, checking in, scanning. I'm just kind of saying, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who am I going to get stuck with kind of thing. And you see the people that they're just talking it up to everybody. And I'm like, no, please don't. I want that guy over there that's got his head buried in a book, and he's got work to do. And I probably won't get to sit beside him because he's usually in first class and I'm in the back. So, yeah, I get these chatty people. It's interesting that chatty people don't know they're chatty people. They have no idea that they talk a lot. And the rest of us, we know. And interesting, even though we all speak thousands and thousands and thousands of words a day, we all have a limit, don't we? When we're like, I'm done. I just don't feel like I can talk anymore. And maybe some of you are going, I don't think I've ever felt that. Well, we know. But there's a lot of us that we have a limit. When my girls were little, I remember Donna getting to the point where she began to teach the girls, especially on Sunday afternoons, where I've just talk, and I'm usually not a very chatty person, but obviously I do a lot of talking on Sundays, or maybe at the end of Monday when I've got all these meetings on Monday at the beginning of the week. She would say to our girls, your dad's just used up all his words. And he's just gone to grunting, like, that's all I got left. And yeah, I remember this one time, this was years back, when on Sunday afternoon we used to do lunch with people. Used to being the important word in this phrase. Used to do lunch with people. You remember back in the old days when people used to let other people in their homes before the pandemic, and you would actually eat other people's food? Remember those? I don't know if you remember back that far, but that was a long time ago. This was during that time, and here at the church, we hadn't gone multi-site yet, and it was during that 2-year span of time when we were doing 5 services every weekend just at this location, and I was speaking twice on Saturday night and 3 times on Sunday morning. And so we went to somebody's house for lunch, and these sweet people, precious people, they're still in our church, and I hope they don't remember this, but I remember it. I fell asleep at lunch. Not only was my wife having to carry the conversation, she had to carry me. I mean, I was just, and so we just decided, and she helped me decide, and she made this decision and helped me come to it. We're done. We don't do that anymore. So we don't do lunch with people after I've used my words up because I got nothing to say. Your personality has a lot to do with this. But regardless, we speak a lot of words. What's more significant than how many words we speak is how we choose to use the words we speak. And if you think about it, tens of thousands of words a day come pouring out of our mouths. There's a lot of opportunity there to pay attention to not just how much we are saying, but actually what we are saying and how we are saying it. Words are important. Words matter. Words help us communicate to each other so that we are known and understood by other people and so that we can hear and know them and understand them as well. The challenge is words are so stinking common. We just open our mouth and they just pour out. Words are so common. We just talk, yak, 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 yak. We say stuff so much that we miss how powerful they are. Whether you speak 7,000 a day, 10,000, 15, 16, 20 plus, regardless, you speak a lot of words. And they all have much more power than you could possibly imagine. And that, my friends, is why we've decided to do a series called The Power of Words. Because you need to wrestle with this reality, just how powerful they are. They're more powerful than you know. They're more powerful than you and I are probably comfortable admitting. Now, the good news is they can be powerful on the positive side. And they can be encouraging and helpful, but all too often, and it's way too common, that words are powerful on the negative side. I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone whose problem in life is that they were too encouraged. And I'm not talking about the thing, the Little League thing where all the kids get a trophy, whether they're good or not, whether they win or not. Last paid kids, let's get them a participation trophy. I don't like that stuff either. Except for your kid. But anyway, that doesn't help. That's not helpful. The sentiment is nice. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it comes to our words. Most of us have suffered far more from the word bombs that have detonated in our lives than we have benefited from the positive words that have been spoken into our lives. Much more common that we struggle with the negative, then we, get to enjoy the positive. So in this series, we're going to talk more about the word bombs, the power of the negative, more than we will spend our time on the power of the positive, even though both are very true. Our words have so much influence. This is going to be quite possibly one of the most convicting and challenging series we've done in a very long time. And I know this because in preparation for it, I'm going, man, oh man, do I need this. Oh man, I have been wrestling with this one personally as well. I mean, the wheels on my wagon are wobbling. I'm like, I got all I can handle here. And so I know that we need this together. And I hope that it's not just convicting and it's not just challenging, but it's also empowering for us to make better choices with the power of our words. What I find true about me and you is that because we speak so many words a day, we can very quickly become careless with the words we speak, right? We just say stuff. We just say stuff without thinking about what we're saying. We say stuff because we get triggered. We actually have that phrase, triggered. Right? And we're not talking about a gun or a firearm. We are talking about how we get triggered. Just a saying, but we all know what that means. We get triggered by circumstance and we just start talking. We just start saying stuff. We get triggered by feelings and we just start talking and we say stuff. Or the trigger gets hit by something else somebody else says. And then we just go off and we just open our mouth and stuff starts pouring out, right? Because we're triggered. And we get very careless with how we use our words. We get to a point where we have a complete disregard for the meaning of what we're saying. We're just talking. The scriptures actually warn us when we talk a lot, we will suffer the consequences of all the words we say. And so we open our mouths and it just pours out with a disregard for the meaning of the words and the effect that it has on other people and ourselves. But here's the truth. Those thousands and thousands of words you say, even though it's just a word here, just a word there, just a word there, those words, though they are tiny, they are mighty, much more powerful than you could possibly imagine. In the first century, Jesus' brother James, who was the first leader of the first church in the first century, wrote what many theologians and scholars believe to be the first book, the first part of the New Testament. Now, when you look at the New Testament, it begins with Matthew and then Mark and then Luke and then John. And towards the end of the New Testament is James's letter, the book of James. And even though it's towards the end, from a chronological standpoint, many believe, and the evidence is pretty convincing, that letter of James was the first one to that first group of Christians in the first century at the first church, written by the first leader of that church, who happens to be the brother of Jesus. How appropriate that he would be the first one up, writing a letter to those first Christians. And I bring all of that up, and I know that's a lot of firsts, because when it's the first, you go, I wonder what's in this. This is interesting. What's first up? What do they deal with? What's the first guy who's going to write to these first group of Christians after the resurrection of Jesus, a few decades after Jesus rose from the dead? What's he going to talk about? And especially he's the brother of Jesus. He's got some inside scoop on some stuff. What's he going to talk about? Oh, if you've never read the book of James, it's a small book. You ought to read the whole thing from beginning to end. It's fascinating. Right off the bat, he starts talking about trials, difficulties, problems. Interesting. The very first thing they talk about in the very first book in the first century to the first group of Christians is crap you got to go through in life. That's significant. We'll actually come back to that in the new year in a series we're planning there. But then he goes on after, talks about problems, and he talks about faith and works. And then in chapter 3, he does this whole section that we're getting ready to dive into on the power of words. So it makes the first book. Words are so powerful. He does an entire, not just one verse, not just two verses, but a whole section on trying to get people to understand. Pay attention to the words you say, because the words you say, the words that come out of your mouth are so powerful. And this is what James, brother of Jesus, writes in the first century. We can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. Okay, you get that. You don't have to be a cowboy, cowgirl, know anything about rodeoing or any of that kind of stuff to understand what he's talking about, right? The bridle has a little bit, and the bit in the horse's mouth is very small in comparison to the size of the horse. But that small bit, well, you pull this way, and you're in business, right? We know that. Another analogy he uses, a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot wants it to go, even though the winds are strong. Big ship. On the bottom of the ship, there's this small piece of metal that's called a rudder. And while it's small, it may be large, to you and me, but it's small in comparison to the size of the ship. It only takes this small thing to turn and go this way or this way, and the whole ship begins to turn. We understand that. Now he goes further with his analogy. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing. Even if you got a big mouth, tongue is very small in comparison to your mouth and to the rest of your body. Even Gene Simmons. It's just kind of, and if you don't know who Gene Simmons is, just forget about it. It's a small thing that makes grand speeches. And then he introduces a word picture here. But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. Now, where's he going with this? It just takes a spark. You know this. I know this. We know this. It makes me think of Smokey the Bear, right? When I was a kid. Only you can prevent forest fires. Like, me? I took that personally, and I felt very pressured for the fires in the world because he told me that I was the one. Only you. Anyway, that's personal. Tiny spark. And then he takes this analogy of fire and he goes further. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire, not just a spark. Now, it only takes a spark. Your whole forest goes up in flames. He said the tongue is actually a flame, and it is a whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. Now watch this next part. It can set your whole life on fire. What can? Your tongue. For it is set on fire by hell itself. How's that for some words? How's that for a word picture? How's that for emphasis? Could ruin your whole life. Is he talking about what you do? No. He's talking about just what you say. Words that come out of your mouth can set your whole life on fire, and not just your life, but words that we say to other people can detonate explosions in their lives that completely set them on fire. In fact, there are many things in your life still smoldering and burning because of things that were said to you years and years and years and years and years ago, if we're honest. And if we're really honest, there are things in other people's lives that are still burning because of things we said to them years and years and years and years ago. Small thing, the tongue. It's words, just tiny things, but they're so mighty, they're so powerful. Can ruin your entire life. They can set your whole life on fire. He goes on with the analogy a little bit further. He says, people can tame all kinds of animals and birds and reptiles and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. Means you got to watch the tongue. You got to watch it. You got to watch, isn't that interesting, that phrase? Watch what you say, which we can't do. You can't see words. We only hear them, right? And you can't really watch. You can't even see your tongue, right? You can't. And so we know what he means, though. We know what we mean when we say watch what you say. That's basically what he's getting at here. He said you can't tame the tongue. You got to constantly keep your eye on it. Constantly watch it. It cannot be tamed. You cannot trust it. It is restless and evil and full of deadly poison. Boy, these are hard words to hear, right? And then this final part to me is so convicting. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, our tongues, our words. And then sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of our Father, of our God. He said, so at the same time, you've got praises and blessing and cursing pouring out of the same mouth. And he says, surely, brothers and sisters, it shouldn't be this way. Surely, this is not right. Blessings and cursings, good stuff and bad stuff, and it's all up in there. And we open and we are so careless and we just say stuff without realizing just how powerful our words are. At this point, you're probably thinking some things like, oh man, I am so glad my wife is here. I ain't gonna look at her though. But Jesus, if you could speak to my wife, because she let me have it this morning and it wasn't my fault. She nags the crap out of me. And some of you wives, you're thinking, oh Lord Jesus, please speak to my hard-headed husband. Parents are thinking, oh, I hope my kids are listening. And get off your phone. Listen to this. And you're thinking about your neighbor. Some of you are like, oh, I knew I should have invited them. I knew, right? You're thinking about other people. But here's the deal. I'm going to challenge you to look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Think about you instead of thinking about others. We'll get to them. We'll get to everybody else and what they've said to you. We'll start getting to that kind of stuff next week. But just think about, for the next few minutes, the power of your words. Because James, the brother of Jesus, gave us this picture. It's like this. Now, you know full well what I decide to do with this determines a lot. I'm holding a lot of power in between my fingers right now. You know this. And this could be very good, depending on where I put it, or very damaging, depending on where I put it. It's an image that we know very well. And James wants us to think about it. even though there's a draft. He didn't account for that. We'll see if we can get one. Yeah, that one's not going to work either. I should have an assistant here. You're the match assistant. Sometimes our words, Mama didn't raise no fool. This is new. Not only does it not have gas in it, it's never had gas in it, so there's no fumes. However, I wonder how we would all benefit from paying this close attention to the words we speak. Why don't we have that kind of reaction to the, we just say stuff and we don't realize. This is what James was getting at. No, they didn't have gasoline back then, but had they had gasoline back then, I bet it might have made the cut. We know what happens when this goes here. It's an uncontrollable amount of destruction. On the other hand, we have the opportunity to take this and do something very beautiful, meaningful, and purposeful with it. Now, some of you are very confused right now. You're going, what's that? This here's what they call an oil lamp. And they're hard to find. If you need some in your house, by the way, when you run out of batteries. And I thought you bought batteries. And no, this right here will help you when the lights go out. It provides light. And if you give it just a few minutes, it puts off a good amount of heat. You will not want to touch that globe. I mean, it's nice and warm. I mean, old school, but does the job. And it's beautiful too. I mean, your words, my words, our words can be helpful or harmful, and we get to decide. In fact, King Solomon in the Old Testament, in all of his wisdom, he said it like this: the tongue has the power of life and death. Life and death. Your tongue has that kind of power. Or you say, oh, no one listens to me. Oh, no, they listen to you. Oh, no one cares what I think. No one cares what I say. Oh, no, they care. Your tongue, sir, ma'am. Hey, dad, mom. Hey, brother, big sister. Hey, friend, boss, employer, employee, coworker, teacher, coach. Your tongue has the power of life and death. In the Message translation, takes the same passage and translates like this. You're talking about graphic. Words kill. Words give life. They're either poison or fruit, and you get to choose. You have to choose. Thousands and thousands of words pour out of our mouths every day, and you and I we get to choose. How are we going to use them? Is it going to be a positive thing? Or will they be explosive and detonate destruction in the lives of those around us, even those we say we love? Because, see, they can kill, and we know it. You know it. Words can tear down and be harsh and destroy and be explosive. Words can drain the life from a marriage and drain the life from friendships and drain the life from relationships. Words, on the other hand, can be life-giving and nourishing and helpful and build good things. Words can be a gift. Words can be a curse. I guess a way that I would like to say it today and for the rest of the series is I'm going to give you 3 words, 3 small words put together, make a phrase, a sentence that I want to introduce to you today, and we're going to talk about this for this whole series. In fact, I'm going to say this so much, you're probably going to get tired of hearing it. And about the time you get tired of hearing it, it's probably about the time it's really beginning to sink in for you and me. This is what I believe Jesus, his brother James, is helping us understand. That words create worlds. Words create worlds. This is what King Solomon was getting at. Words create worlds, either good ones or bad ones, healthy ones or harsh ones. Words create worlds. What's fascinating to me is that literally with his words, God created the universe. He created the worlds. And so not on the same level as God's words, because we're not God, but we still have the power to create worlds. Words create environments that people live in, that you live in, and that the people you love live in, and that the people you're around live in. Words create feelings and thoughts. Words create realities that other people live in and that you live in. And they can be healthy and life-giving or so unhealthy that words can explode and destroy and tear down and make the environment and the world in which you live almost uninhabitable. Words create worlds. And you get to choose, and I get to choose, and we must choose. Words have a mysterious capacity to bring into reality and understanding what's going on inside of us. And Jesus even said that. Jesus said it's out of the heart, out of the mind, out of the soul, out of the inside of us that our words come out, that our mouth speaks. And I know this is true. You know this is true. In fact, I have been on the receiving end, and you've been on the receiving end of killing words and life-giving words, haven't you? I know I have. But if we look in the mirror and we're honest, we've also been responsible for, hopefully, life-giving words, but unfortunately, killing words. Words that take life, drain life, create uninhabitable places for the people we say we love. Words create worlds. Recently, I was reading and came across something that Erwin McManus, who is a pastor on the West Coast in California, he's an author, teacher, artist, and he wrote this, and I thought this was fascinating. He said, we're not just part of God's created order, where things are determined for us, kind of thing. We are actually part of God's creative order, where we get to create things and decide things and make things and build things that were not there before. It's a fascinating reality. And it's kind of what it means to be made. It's part of what it means to be made in the image of God. We're all created in the image of God. And what that basically means is that God has intellect, emotion, and will. So when God created human beings, he created human beings with intellect, emotion, and will. Now, our intellect and emotion and will do not operate at the same level of God's. We're not him. We get that, or most of us get that. We all need to get that. But we're still created in the image of God. And another thing this means is that God is creative. We're creative. God builds things. We build things. And we, with our words, can build or tear down and decide futures. And build and tear down and decide the direction of lives and marriages and homes and friendships and relationships. Yeah, words create worlds. I've been quoting Eugene Peterson a lot. I learned a lot from this guy who's with the Lord now. He said, words get under our skin and shape us. We actually say that, don't we? We say, boy, when he said that, that just got under my skin. Or when she talks like that, that gets under my skin. So we're tracking with them. They get under our skin and they shape us. And they make us from the inside out. Words create worlds. I want you to take a second and I want you to think about how words have created the worlds that you live in. I want you to take a moment, look in the mirror, and think about the words that have been spoken to you in your life and that are being spoken to you currently. The words that have been spoken around you and over you in your life. And I want you to take note, and this could be painful. It could be very, very humbling to consider the world that has been created for you to live in, for the words that have been spoken to you, around you, and over you. I mean, immediately, if you're like me, I go back to my childhood and I start playing stuff back. I'm like, wow. I didn't think it was a big deal then. I mean, I knew it wasn't good. But boy, now looking back, that just kind of set my whole life ablaze in this area of my life. And I'm still smoldering because of this. And I'm still burning because of this. And I'm still trying to put that flame out because of what he said and what they said or what they didn't choose to say. Maybe you think about your home or your school and classroom environments, things that have been spoken to you at school, on the ball field by a coach, by a professor, by somebody at work, maybe a boss or a coworker. Those words have helped make you who you are, like it or not. Good, bad, or indifferent, they've helped make who you are, and they're still making you. Words create worlds. They still shape us. And here's what you need to remember. You have the same effect on other people. Words create worlds. They're never, those thousands and thousands and thousands of words that come out of your mouth every day, they're never just words. Never just words. You're never just blowing off steam. You're never just venting. You're never just getting something off your chest. Are you saying I can't vent? No, but you got to understand how you vent creates a world. How you blow off steam creates a world. Nobody gets a pass. Nobody gets a pass. Even when we say, you know what, you can say anything you want here, and it doesn't matter. You can say anything you want. Oh, that's so naive. I get the sentiment behind it, and that's a kind sentiment. What we're trying to say is this is a safe place, and you can be honest, and you can talk. And we all need that. But even then, words never stop creating worlds. They're never just words, ever. They are active and alive. They're never harmless. They're never impotent. They have great power. And we get to decide. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Could not be more untrue. It's not the way it is, and you know it. You live it. You've experienced it. So at the beginning of this series, I'm going to leave you with two questions. When I get them both up on the screen, take a picture of them, sit with them, wrestle with them, simmer with them, because they will get us started in the right direction in this series. First question, what kind of world are you creating with your words now, currently, in your marriage, in your home, at work, with your friends, in the classroom, on the ball field? You just pick, wherever. What kind of worlds are you currently creating? Because you're creating them. Whether you like it or not, admit it or not, want to take responsibility for it or not, you need to step up to reality. And the second question, I like this question better because it gives me hope. What kind of world do you want to create? Because you get to decide. You get to choose. What kind of world do you want to create? Maybe you've created some bad stuff. Maybe you have created some very unhealthy worlds in the past, and you've said some very explosive and damaging things, and maybe you've set a lot of things ablaze that are still burning and smoldering in your life and the lives of other people. And no, you cannot go back and undo. No, you cannot go back and unsay what has been said. But what you can do is start again and start new and start now, creating a better world with the words you use. A more God, Christ honoring world. A more honoring world to those you love and those who love you. You get to choose. What kind of world do you want to create? Have hope. You get to decide. You get to choose. You get to have a say in what you say and how you say it. So let's choose. And let's pray. Our Father, We need your help on this one. Our words are never just words. James makes that so clear, how powerful they are. Solomon draws a line in the sand. It's life or death. It's fruit or poison. And we have to choose. Father, all of us have been the recipients of, and we know very well, explosive words, damaging words, and hopefully uplifting words. And may we realize the very same thing comes out of our mouths. Help us to take responsibility for the worlds that we're creating with the words that we choose to say and how we choose to say them. So, Father, this is something that is going to be uncomfortable for us, but we look to you through the power of your Spirit to empower us, because we can do this. We can do this with your help. We can honor you and honor those around us with the words we say, and we can still be honest, and we can still deal with reality, and we can still tell the truth, and we can still deal with what needs to be dealt with, and do it in such a way where our words are life-giving, not life-draining. Help me. Help us. As we understand that our words create worlds, may we choose. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so next week, what we're going to do is start talking about the natural place that your mind went and the natural place my mind went when we start talking about the words that we speak. And that natural place is probably not the words that you speak, but the words that have been spoken to you. We almost always find ourselves on the receiving end, or, in our victimized society where everybody's a victim, and it kind of leads us to always think of what's been done to us. And I'm not saying that's the way you're thinking, that you think you're a victim or anything. I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying we're conditioned to think what has happened to us. So next week, we're going to talk about the words that have been spoken to you, about you, and over you in your life from other people, whether it's a parent, a friend, a coworker, just anybody in your past, the words that have been spoken to you and over you, and how to deal with that, and how to handle that, and what to do with that going forward. And as a reminder, the words create worlds, and the power of words. On your way out today, everybody's going to get a book of matches that say the power of words. You say, well, I don't smoke, preacher. Well, good. You don't have to smoke to take this. Build a campfire, right? Or to do something. This campfire weather. Go make some s'mores. Or just put this on your desk. Put it in your car. Put it somewhere as a reminder to say those thousands and thousands of words that you're just talking. This is what they are. This is what they are. And you get to choose. If you are newer to the summit and you've been just attending maybe 1, 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks or 10 months, or maybe you just got back after being away for a while, and maybe you've got questions, or you just want to kind of know where you fit in and what your next step is, we would love to get to know you as you're getting to know us. And we can do that together. If you'll go to the gallery, which is the room across the lobby on your way out, we would love to meet you. We would love to journey alongside of you in your faith journey and help you take your next steps and help you get to know us as we're getting to know you. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.